I just want to open this meeting for this evening. We'll welcome our guests this evening and our fellow Toastmasters, and of course our viewers at home. And I officially open it up right now. This ought to be a fun way to kick December off with some new blood in here. Before we get started, I typically like to read our mission statement. The mission of Golden Speakers is to create a supportive and positive learning environment in which each member has the opportunity to develop verbal communication and leadership skill, which foster self-confidence and personal growth. Before we get started off, would any of our guests like to just comment anything while you're here, or what brings you here quickly? Yes, Sue.
Okay, well, I am Sue Gale, and I'm sitting in the next room to the guest speaker because I'm his wife. So I'm here for inspiration and edification.
Great. Thanks for attending, Sue.
I'm Willie Koppel. I'm here to support Sue Gale and Art Atkinson, our featured speaker, who's in another house several blocks away. Just following up, Sue, on your description of your physical location in relation to the guest speaker. And I'm eager to hear what Art has to share and what everyone else has to bring tonight.
Thank you, Willie. Appreciate it. Sean, you want to have anything to say before we get started?
Yeah, Bob, sure. I'm Sean Fry. I was a member of Golden Speakers, I think from 2001 to 2004. I don't know if your records go back that far, but it would be interesting to see how long I was a member. But I'm coming to you tonight from Coffeyville, Kansas. And I'm here because I have a meeting with John Deere in the morning, and then I'll be on the road heading back to Iowa. I live in Dowds. I don't know if you all know where that is, but it's just south of Fairfield. So that's where I've lived for 22 years. So I'm looking forward to getting reconnected with everyone again and hanging out with y'all.
Well, great. Glad to have you, Sean.
Thank you.
Into the right place, back home. Would anyone else like to share? Pete Williams or Willie?
We got Willie. We have Patrick. And
Hi, this is Patrick. I'm here also to support Art in his talk on Parkinson's, and I'm curious to see what he says and looking forward to learning.
Okay.
Great. We thank you for showing up. We really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else before we get started? All right. Moving on. As it said, Art's going to be giving a speech this evening. But before we do that, I'm going to pass it on to our Toastmaster this evening. Mr. Toastmaster, go ahead.
thank you, Bob, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. We'll go ahead and get started. First, we'll introduce the roles for the evening. The first role is the timer, and that is actually me as well. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be timing 3 basic parts of the meeting. So Art's speech is 20 minutes in length. Art, if I do a 16, an 18, and a 20, does that work for you? What would you like? What else would you like me to do?
18, 19, 20 would work.
18, 19, 20. So you'll figure out where you want to stop, when you want to start your Q&A, like that?
Yes, I've got that figured.
Okay, very good. So I will be showing, for our prepared speaker tonight, Art, I'll be showing the green card at 18, the yellow card at 19, and then the red card at 20 minutes, at which point he has up to 30 seconds to finish out and still be in qualification for the best speaker position tonight. I'll also be timing table topics, we might have a little shorter session because of the length of Art's speech. Table topics are 1 to 2 minute impromptu speeches. Our theme tonight is when the clock is ticking. So we'll have some interesting questions around there. We might have to come back and do that another meeting because that sounds very good. And maybe we need more questions. But at 1 minute, I'll show the green. At 1.5 minutes, I'll show the yellow. And then at 2 minutes, I'll show the red, and you have up to 30 seconds to complete your speech. You do also have up to 30 seconds at the beginning to compose in silence, to compose whatever you want to say before you can speak. You don't have to jump right in. Finally, evaluators for our speeches and also our table topics, because we do evaluate those as well. Typically are 2 to 3 minute preparations, presentations. At 2 minutes, it's green. At 2.5, I'll show the yellow. And then at 3 minutes, I'll show the red. And then you have up to 30 seconds to finish up after that. I will be giving a report at the end of the meeting. Yay, me. Okay, now we'll move into our grammarian, introduce our grammarian, who tonight is Alex Givens.
Thanks, Madam. Thanks, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our honored guests. My role as the grammarian tonight is my responsibility is to pay close attention to all the speakers, listening carefully to their language usage. I'll also take note or improper language, as well as any outstanding words or sayings or thoughts. Also, it's my duty to introduce the word of the day, which will be arrangement, and I'll put here in the chat. So the word of the day is arrangement. It has two meanings: the action, process, or result of arranging or being arranged, and plans or preparations for. And I'll give my report at the end of the meeting. Thanks.
Thank you, Alex. We don't have a K9 member, just in case you're wondering. I do have a K9 family member here. Finley, down. Stay. We'll get a treat as soon as he finishes his disciplinary exercise here. Our next role player is Art Atkinson, who is our counter. We do wear multiple hats in our meetings, ups the difficulty. So Art, if you could explain what the counter role is.
Yes, my responsibility as counter is to listen carefully for words or sounds that people may use to fill uncomfortable spaces while they think. Typical filler words or sounds are words like so, and, but, used to hook sentences together rather than putting a period and a pause before beginning the next sentence. And other such words that may be personal favorites of the speaker. And I will give a brief report at the end of the meeting, hopefully very little to report.
Thank you, Art. We'll have our general evaluator, Dan Craig. We'll hear from him later in the meeting when he will be evaluating evaluators primarily, which we feel is an important skill to have. And then also we'll hear from our joke master, Bob Fogel. Always a pleasure when Bob is the joke master. All right. Okay. So with that, we're going to move over to our featured speaker for the evening. And in order to introduce his project, I'm going to ask his evaluator, who is, let's see, who is it?
It's me,
It's me. I'm sorry. I'm
Alex.
shuffling tabs here. Yes, thank you, Alex. If you would please tell us what Art's going to be doing tonight.
Sure. Thanks, Madam Toastmasters. So Art is our speaker tonight, and his speech is titled, "You Can Avoid Parkinson's Disease." This is part of his presentation mastery pathway, level 4, running a Q&A sessions. And his speech is timed between 15 to 20 minutes.
Okay, great. Thank you. To introduce Art, Art has been a member of Golden Speakers for at least 15 years. He has held officer positions as Vice President of Public Relations, Secretary, Treasurer, and President. He moved his family to Fairfield from California in 1986. He was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, also known as PD, in 2016. That is when he started the research on which tonight's talk is based. It's going to be very informative. Please help me welcome Art Atkinson.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. I am putting in the chat right now a link that everyone should be able to see, a Dropbox link with a handout that I would like you to have while I'm speaking.
Okay.
So please go grab that handout right now, if you haven't done so already.
Art, I'll start timing you as soon as
Right now.
everyone is situated. Okay.
The world is facing an epidemic of Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, multiple sclerosis. And the fastest growing group among all of these is people with Parkinson's disease. How can we avoid getting caught in this trap? Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, viewers at home. There is some good news here. You can minimize your risk of getting any of these terrible afflictions. Over 6 million people worldwide are dealing with Parkinson's disease. 1 million of them are right here in the USA. And the alarming thing is, experts expect these numbers to double in the next 18 years. The surge in numbers of early onset Parkinson's cases is particularly alarming. Parkinson's for 200 years has been thought of as a disease of aging, typical onset being maybe age 60 or 65. And now there's a new growing contingent of 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds with Parkinson's disease. In 1817, when English physician James Parkinson described what he called the shaking palsy, there were fewer than 25 cases known in all of England. Contrast that with the situation now. There's just shy of 25 cases in Jefferson County. The public knows PD as a shaking, tremoring disease. But we also now know that there are many other varieties of Parkinson's, the common theme of which are slow, stiff awkwardness. If you look at the handout, the section entitled Common Symptoms of PD starts with a masked face. That was the first symptom of mine that a trained neurologist identified. Makes it the case that I always look like I'm not engaged. Stiff body, trouble walking, shuffling feet, stoop posture, hunched over. Arms are not swinging when I walk. I call it my orangutan walk. And I fight like the Dickens to not do it and to walk standing upright. That becomes very difficult. But there are symptoms that you never imagine are related to tremor, like acting out dreams, lying in bed and being unable to distinguish between dream and reality, or handwriting that becomes microscopically small. It's a progressive disorder, meaning things just keep getting more intense. Mild tremor becomes more extreme. Swallowing reflexes get confused, leading to choking. Blood pressure regulation becomes erratic. Cognitive decline in 35% of the cases reaches the level of a complete dementia. Each person is displaying a unique array of Parkinson's symptoms. When you've seen one person with PD, you've only seen one version of the disorder. And it depends on what stage he's in. Stage 1, 2, 3, or 4, which the medical community has identified. Some people progress very slowly or not at all, never reaching the level 4 breakdown stage. Some people much more quickly progress. I know 3 men in Fairfield who died within 2 years of being diagnosed. Research shows that neurodegenerative diseases, just like cancer, heart disease, diabetes, all of the diseases of modern life, are a result of chronic inflammation. Chronic ongoing inflammation going on for years, like a smoldering fire, ends up damaging healthy parts of the body in its rampage to get rid of the invader or the damaged cells. This means damaging healthy parts of the brain too. All it takes is for the immune system to be sufficiently intensely triggered to start this process. And then the specific neurodegenerative disorder that shows up depends on which brain systems get damaged first or most severely. Damage to a structure in the brain called the substantia nigra is common to all varieties of Parkinson's disease. The substantia nigra is responsible for producing dopamine, the neurotransmitter by which the brain moves muscles. The resulting dopamine shortage shows up as tremor and the other symptoms. The triggers that start this process, there's a long list of them under triggers and conditions or events that generate chronic inflammation. It could be something that you inherit. In my case, only one copy of the gene for methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase, which is essential for detoxing the body. I only have one copy of the gene. Most people have 2. repeated traumatic brain injury, repeated blows to the head, such as football players sustain. Stress in general, chemicals in the soil, air, and water, 10,000 new ones since World War II. Some of these triggers are sufficient all by themselves, but others require working together in concert. The good news is that you can minimize your risk of developing PD because the situations depend on things that you're in control of. Clean living and eating are essential. 7 to 8 hours of sleep regularly. Drinking purified water, not tap water. Here in Fairfield, the tap water contains fluorides. Exercise daily. Avoiding exposure to herbicides and pesticides, waterborne toxins. And if you do accidentally get exposed, detoxing after exposure. Avoiding rancid oils, omega-6 oils, cottonseed, soybean, corn oils, hydrogenated oils or trans fats, and monosodium glutamate. All these things are within your control. Eating an anti-inflammatory, antioxidant diet is very important. 5 to 7 fruits and veggies every day, washed before being cooked or eaten. Organic free-range meats, poultry, fish, omega-3 oils, olive oils, avocado, coconut oils, and anti-inflammatory, antioxidant supplements. In the handout from Dr. Russell Blaylock titled Parkinson's Disease, You Can Fight Back. He includes a list of the dosages and sources where you can order all of the items on this long list of antioxidant supplements. So the good news is you're in control of conditions that determine your chances of getting Parkinson's or any of these neurodegenerative disorders. You can skip it. So now I've allowed some time for questions. Would like to know what you may have wanted more information about. Please raise your hand or take yourself off mute. Yes, Jean.
You mentioned a genetic anomaly that you have relative to normal. That's not something you can do anything about. Is that to what degree is that a factor? And what's
That's one of the genetic factors, or one of the kinds of factors that operate in concert with other things. And in my case, that tendency to sluggish detoxification, coupled with living in an environment that's saturated with glyphosate because of the use of Roundup on the fields around here, coupled with a bad habit that I had of staying up till 1 or 2 a.m. for about 20 years. Those three are operating together in me to produce conditions favorable to this disorder. Has any of you been wondering where Alzheimer's stands in this
Yes.
line of reasoning? in the case of Alzheimer's, the brain systems responsible for memory and what they call executive function are the systems in the brain that are being damaged by the chronic inflammation.
I have a question, Art.
Go ahead, Bob.
Your chronic inflammation, is that like arthritis? I mean, did you notice this? Is that one of the first symptoms that came about for many years, or lack of sleep, or what do you recall?
About 15 years ago, I was puzzled by the fact that for most of my adult life, I've been struggling with constipation, and I consulted medical people about it, and they eventually gave me a diagnosis of idiopathic constipation, which means we don't know what causes it. And that showed up 15 years before any of the more obvious symptoms of Parkinson's, stiffness, tremor. So I heard today of another possible symptom. I have had cold hands and feet for my entire adult life. So 40 years ago, I could have put two and two together and noticed constipation, cold hands and feet, and suspected that maybe I had Parkinson's, but I didn't know. In fact, more recently, when I got diagnosed with idiopathic constipation, the doctor didn't know either. It wasn't common knowledge.
If they would have diagnosed it 20 years ago, would you be in the position you are now, or could they have headed off?
I would have paid a lot more attention to the advice to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep. I'd have probably adopted more of the diet that I'm eating now. So yeah, I would have taken precautionary moves. Jean.
I'm just curious that those stunning numbers that you gave at the beginning about doubling over the next X number of years and some of that. Just curious what your sources were for those kinds of statements at the beginning. Like what year was that coming from?
I believe that's in the handout at the source when we look in the last page with sources.
Oh, okay. I see.
I think it's
Okay.
It's one of the first. It's either the second or the third source, Dr. Jankovic, or the one just above it.
Okay, this is really good. I didn't see those second pages. I thought it was just a one-page symptoms, common symptoms. So thank you. I could find some things in there.
Yeah.
Are there medications, Art, that can? Oh, Sean, were you going to say something? saw Sean's hand go up just at the same time I was.
Go ahead and finish it. I can jump in after you're done.
I just was curious, Art, if there's any medications that are currently being used to help.
In the section, in the handout, there's a section, PD treatments. And pharmaceuticals is the first category. There is a widely prescribed medication called carbidopa levodopa, which substitutes synthesized levodopa for levodopa produced naturally in the brain. And it is the go-to standard medication for someone with Parkinson's. There are 15 or 20 different versions of it. Some are sustained release versions. Some are not the carbidopa levodopa. Some are what are called dopamine agonists. They're medicines that mimic some functions of dopamine.
Okay, well, it looks like it's at a later date. We can look at some of these things in your handout. I wasn't looking at the handout. I was listening to what you said. So
Yes, we're unfortunately out of time.
yeah, you are. I got the green one up, but I lost the yellow and the red due to canine interference over here. Yes. So Art, are you done? You're good?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yay. All right. Well, thank you very much, Art. And I think this handout is something that everyone can leave with, and it's useful to have in your file somewhere. Now, for the timer, which is me, we're going to have 2 minutes of evaluation to Art. And so what we do is you send in the meeting chat, find Art, and send him for the next 2 minutes. Just put down your thoughts, what you liked, suggestions you may have, and he'll be able to see all those. So let's go ahead. And everybody is good. It's good for everybody if you can, guests and whoever, just Art will appreciate them. Okay, it's been 2 minutes. Gosh, 2 minutes goes fast, doesn't it? Just feel like I'm not. You can continue to surreptitiously arrange to send Art more feedback for the rest of the meeting. In the meantime, let's see, where do we want to go from here? Lost my spot. Alex, you're Art's evaluator. Would you like a little more time? Would you like us to do table topics first and come back to you, or are you ready to go? And please, it's fine either way.
I think I could use some more time.
Could use a little more time. It's a long project. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, good. Well, then we will zig left and head over to our table topics master, who is Dan Craig.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Before we start, I'm just going to say a quick hello to Michelle, who has just sent a chat to all of us. Michelle, you're showing up on our screen as iPhone, so we're glad to know your name, glad that you were able to come to the meeting tonight. And if you can stay till the end, we'd be happy to talk to you some at that point. Now back to table topics. My job as topics master is to run the session where we practice our impromptu speaking. Tonight, we don't have a very long session. Probably we'll have time for about three questions. I have 4 questions that you can choose from. I'll call on a volunteer and then I'll let you pick a number 1 to 4 and we'll do it that way. As was mentioned before, these table topic speeches are 1 to 2 minutes long. You get a green light at 1 minute, which means you've talked long enough. That's all you've got to say. There's a yellow light at 1.5 minutes, a red light at 2, and you have 30 seconds to wrap up. So what I need at this point is a willing volunteer. Our guests are completely welcome to join in. Usually we suggest that we let one of our members go first, just to model that a bit, if any member would like to go. And going once. Going twice.
Bob's looking eager.
Well, all right. Then would you like to evaluate me since I'm table topic later? But yes, Dan laid on me.
Okay, very good. Choose 1 through 4, please.
We'll go number 2.
As the clock ticks down to the end of 2022, what do you remember most about this year? As the clock ticks down to the end of 2022, what do you remember most about this year?
Thank you, Table Topics Master. The memory of 2022 rings in my head as way too many political commercials. That was over the top. I am so thankful that part is done. You would not believe the barrage, how much my phone blew up with every political thing dialing me 6-8 times a day. You would not even know as a business person how many times you have to push block, 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 block. And the next day, same thing, block, 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 block. It's just around the clock, as our theme goes. That I do remember. In addition to that, it was a pleasant year, weather-wise here in Iowa, and we all got to share in it. That was a memory for me. But I think as this year ends, I will share something with you all that's proven to be one of the most joyous times of my life. Is my fiance said yes. And that's going to be my biggest memory of the year. Back to you.
Congratulations, Bob.
Thanks, Dan.
I won't mention to her when I see her that you mentioned her after the weather.
Oh, okay.
But that's great news.
Okay.
Who is the next volunteer? Guest, please step on up if you want to play. Sue.
Why not?
All right, I have your choice of number 1, 3, or 4.
3, please.
Number 3. Most people delay taking a needed action until forced to do so by an approaching deadline. Why do you think we tend to operate this way? Most people delay taking a needed action until forced to do so by an approaching deadline. Why do you think we tend to operate this way?
I believe the reason most people delay something till the last minute, thinking of high school papers and tax returns, is because they're not something that you enjoy, that you look forward to. Doing the dishes. But if it's something that you're looking forward to, you might start on it early, such as our trip to Panama, which I have been packing for the last 2 months. And doing all the things that go along with it, some of which are not so pleasant, like making sure taxes are done or the mail is forwarded, but in conjunction with something else that is joyful that you want to do, then the arrangements are easy. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Sean, I saw your hand up a millisecond after Sue, so you're next. You can choose from 1 or 4.
Let's go with 1.
The clock is ticking for us to deal with climate change. How successful do you think humanity will be in responding to the challenge of reducing our impact on the climate?
Thank you, Table Topics Master. I believe the arrangements that we put together this evening, with us all meeting over Zoom now, in time is really going to significantly impact the climate change and just the global transportation and burning fossil fuels and such. And I probably would not have had that belief a couple of years ago, but I've been privileged to work with both the original EV manufacturer of Tesla and the brand new EV pickup truck manufacturer located in Bloomington, Illinois, of Rivian Automotive. And I've had the opportunity to work with a few of their engineers and actually see how they've taken climate change to a granular level and really extrapolated that, and putting everybody in the room and making the arrangements for people to come and understand it has really opened my eyes, because I was definitely in the non-believing crowd. And so I've had a really cool opportunity to learn that. And so I think as we move forward and we become a little bit more of a decentralized in the fact that, hey, you know what, you can get work done and you don't have to be in an office. We can get stuff done and still come together. And you know what? Table Topics is just as nerve-wracking doing it over Zoom as it was when I used to get up in the basement of the Catholic Church. I still felt that nervous energy, like, no, I really don't want to do it. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Sean. I'm glad we arranged to give you that little thrill. Unfortunately, our time is already over. That's it for Table Topics. Thanks to those who participated. Madam Timer, can you tell us who qualified?
All of our speakers qualified: Sue, Sean, and Bob.
We're going to vote by sending a chat to Jean, who is the Toastmaster. Just put TT and then your choice of Sue, Sean, or Bob as your choice for best table topic speaker. You can vote for yourself, but only once.
Okay. So in the meantime, let's go ahead and circle back to our evaluator for the evening. and that would be Alex evaluating Art. Alex, are you ready at this point?
I can be ready, yes.
Okay. I know it's a big job.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, there we go.
Thanks, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our honored guests. It is always a joy to hear a speech from Art. He always delivers the speech with so much clarity, very direct, a very good voice. So it's very good to understand and to follow his speech. This was a very informative speech, and I really enjoyed the way that Art organized the speech. He started with a hook. How can we avoid getting caught in health afflictions? Something that we can all relate and we all are interested to learn more. So he captured the audience right from the beginning. And then I really appreciate the way that Art organized his speech. So he started with giving some recent information based on recent researches that were done in the area in this field, in the Parkinson's disease, PD. And he also contrasted, I thought that was very interesting how he contrasted with when the disease was first discovered to how many cases we have in now. So that was very impactful to hear, and very important information that he brought to the context of his speech. He first shared the recent discoveries and some researches there. And then he went on and sharing more information about the disease itself, Parkinson's. And he shared some symptoms. And I really appreciated the way that Art, right before he started his speech, he shared a document via chat. So that was a very interesting way to share information with the audience. So he shared a document where the audience could follow, not just by listening to him about all the symptoms, but also reading the document. So I thought that was a very good way to keep the audience engaged. Also some information about the symptoms, and he gave the sites where he collected the data. So that was very nice too. Let me see here where I am in my notes. So another point that I enjoyed in Art's speech was that he kept a very good eye contact. He had good gestures, especially in the beginning of the speech when he was introducing what his speech was going to be about. He kept a very good eye contact, gestures, and a good tone, which everyone could engage with him. And I really enjoyed the way that he transitioned and facilitated the Q&A questions, the Q&A session. He did it with ease. He addressed each questions with attention and informative answers. So this is what I have for his speech. Great job, Art. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Alex. All right, we also have our table topics evaluator for the evening, and that would be Bob. Oh, Bob, you want to go ahead and evaluate? And you have what, 3? You have 3 people?
Just two.
Just 2.
Just 2? Okay.
Mhm.
And that would be
Sue and Sean.
Sue and Sean. Okay.
Just
A
a
little
couple.
shorter session. Yes.
Did anybody evaluate Bob?
I didn't, because I'm having trouble enough. Sue did? Yeah.
Sorry, Bob, you fell through the cracks.
Okay.
Bob, we decided to let you go. What is it when you're mountain climbing and you don't have any ropes or anything? You just
Free climbing.
free climbing. You're free
Yeah.
climbing. No evaluating. Just you fall to your death. That's on you. So
Whoa.
okay. Okay.
Okay. All right. So,
So 2 to 3, Bob.
okay, 2 to 3.
Mhm.
Sue was our first guest this evening. And we want to congratulate Sue for being on the first Toastmasters I ever met and being so brave to be the first one out. Good job, Sue. The question was presented. I kind of broke it down a little bit. Was why do people procrastinate? Dan had the long version, but Sue shortened it up. And it was great because Sue, she repeated the question. And that's a good characteristic of someone who's listening to the speaker and share with the rest of us. Toastmasters. She began her opening thing as she named a few things which we heard that are of no enjoyment, and most people do procrastinate in those situations, homework, dishes, things of that nature. However, her body of her speech, what highlighted everybody, was the fact that she's been packing for her Panama Canal trip. And when she spoke about that, we saw Sue's gestures got up. Her voice got a little higher. She had a smile on her face. And so she's using the use of the camera for the Zoom thing. And that's what we like to see in Zoom, because sometimes we just get wrapped up in our thing and not elaborate so much. And she got all of her attention, and we could feel her, what was going on. And the conclusion for Sue was that she put us all in the mindset that we wish we were all going with her. Great job, Sue. Sean, he's still an old pro. Good job, Sean. He answered the question back, whether he was, and the question was given to him if there was any reason he thought, if I understand the question correctly, about climate control or climate change, that if he had any hope that there was for America or for the world. Sean, he greeted the audience, and his opening thing when he repeated back Dan, so he answered the question back, which is always good. But when he opened, he didn't have too much hope in the beginning. However, as we followed his story through, as he got into it more with, and I didn't quite catch what Sean said, it was something with his business or with cars or whatever. I didn't get that all detailed down. However, he started showing a glimmer of hope. And I noticed at the end, after his body glimmer of hope, Sean, as well as Sue, started showing a little glimmer of hope because I saw his hands go up. And you could see it was going up. And then I had a glimmer of hope watching him have a glimmer of hope. And so it was really good. And it was great that ended his body. And I like the way Sean closed it because he nailed it. Because even though I was fearful, it brought back those fearful memories doing the Catholic thing in front of the pulpit, as we all can relate to. It was he nailed it right at the end. So good job, Sean, and good gestures.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you, Bob. Our general evaluator tonight is Jean Craig. Dan, do you want to take over from this point? Are we there at that part? Should we arrange to transition from the Toastmaster to the general evaluator?
That's an excellent idea regarding arrangements, Jean. We're going to have our meeting reports now. First, let's hear from our timer, Jean.
Okay. I think I need to be assigned timer again very soon because I was dropping some balls there in my juggling. Art had 20 minutes and 20 seconds, which was within time for him. Bob had 2 minutes and 5 seconds. This is now moving into table topics. Bob had 2 minutes, 5 seconds. Sue had 1 minute. Sean had 1 minute, 50 seconds. And then on evaluators, Alex was 3 minutes and 20 seconds. And my timer, I'm sure it was user error, but my timer was, I hit something funny.
Oh.
But you were with it. No, you know what? You were 3 minutes.
Oh, was
You were
that?
3 minutes. Yep. You were 3 minutes. Sorry.
Okay.
In my glimmer. And that's it. That's my report.
Our next role player that we'll hear from is Alex with the grammarian report.
Thanks, Mr. General Evaluator. Let me just rearrange here, do some arrangements with my notes. So arrangement was a hot word in our meeting today. We had it a few times. Jean said it twice, Sue said it once, Sean twice, and Dan twice. And I just said it just to fit in there. And we had some interesting phrases as well used by our speakers tonight. Bob used over the top, joyous time of his life, and the announcement of his engagement. Congratulations, Bob. Sue used the word in conjunction. That was nice. And Sean used the word significantly impact. It has opened my eyes and get stuff done and still coming together. And this is my report for tonight. Thanks.
Thank you, Alex. Let's go now to Art, who's going to give us the odd counter report.
Tonight's winners are and Alex used 6 times, 5 and 5. So was used 3. Bob Fogel used once, twice, and once. That's my report.
Speaking of Bob, it's time for the joke master role. Take it away, Bob.
All right. So there's SOA. Start that over. I made a belt out of clocks. That was a waste of time. You know what they say about grandfather clocks? They're old timers.
Aw.
Why is it unwise to share your secrets with a clock? Time will tell. A drunk guy was showing his friend his new apartment. The last stop is the bedroom, where the big brass gong sits next to the bed. What's the gong for? The friend asks. It's not a gong, the drunk replies. It's a talking clock. Well, how does it work? The guy picks up the hammer and gives it a gong. It's an ear-shattering pound. Suddenly, someone on the other side of the wall screams, "For gosh sakes, it's 3:30 in the morning." And that's my joke.
That reminds me of a joke, which I won't tell, but I'll tell you after the meeting.
Okay.
A similar theme.
Oh.
Jean?
I just remembered that we didn't vote for evaluator. Unless I'm spacing out. One quick thing. So we had Bob and we had Alex. We don't need to really spend any time on it. Just if you'd send me your votes in the chat for either Bob or Alex as our best evaluator for the evening, that would be great. Back to you, Dan.
Okay, Jean, thank you. That was just in time, because now I'm going to talk about the evaluators. My job as general evaluator is to evaluate the evaluators. Our first was Alex, who was evaluating Art's project. He had the happy task of evaluating a wonderful project from Arts, and she was full of praise. I won't go through and list all the things that she mentioned, but what I particularly liked about the way that Alex did that praise was that she didn't repeat things that Art had said. She talked about them, the categories of what he had done, which is much more effective because we already heard the speech. We didn't need to hear the content anymore. I think the main thing I'd like to suggest to Alex, no, I think I'll mention one more excellent thing that she did. She also talked about his manner of delivery, not only all the points that he brought up in his project, but she had praise for his eye contact, his gestures, his voice, and so on. So we knew not only that she had listened well and gotten all the good parts of the project, but she was evaluating him on his delivery, which is an important part for the evaluator to take care of. The only thing I could suggest for Alex is that she think about ways that she might give Art some suggestions. If you did give a suggestion, I didn't hear it. And even though this was really quite an excellent talk, there's probably always something. I'm sorry, we've got an echo here. I'm going to mute Jean. See if that worked. Usually it doesn't work to mute Jean, but we won't go into that. There are usually some things that you can suggest to someone, even though they've done an excellent project, you've made them feel really good about all the good things that they did. We still want speakers at every level to try to improve. For example, in the case of Art's project, I wrote down that he did a really nice job of giving us a detailed handout, and that as he spoke about the handout, he didn't try to read it all. He just gave us excerpts of it, which was much more effective than getting into too much detail. But the suggestion that I would give would be to have an executive summary for the handout, which would amount to 1 or 2 slides with the main points, and then also provide the detail. And because anytime a slide or a document is that detailed, there's the risk that the audience will get too bogged down in looking at it. But excellent job. You did a wonderful job in the evaluation, Alex, and we look forward to having you do more. Next, I get to evaluate Bob, who is our table topics evaluator. He evaluated Sue and Sean in the table topics that they did. What I really liked about what Bob did in his evaluation was the enthusiasm he showed in giving the speakers feedback. I think it was true that both speakers felt right at the beginning of their evaluations that they were getting an enthusiastic response, would make them want to do it again sometime, and that they felt appreciated. Bob also showed us that he had listened to what the questions were. He paraphrased the questions at the beginning. I think that the suggestion I would have for Bob would be to try to mention something that a speaker could do, perhaps in their delivery. Give it, to some extent, I think you were implying, by praising gestures, for example, I think you were implying that there could have been more gestures. Thanks, Bob. That was a great job. I'm going to send the meeting back to our Toastmaster, Jean. It's time for our meeting awards.
Okay, very good. Let me grab the all-important ribbons here. We had some excellent offerings tonight. First, let's start with, we'll start with Best Evaluator. Drum roll, please. Alex. Best evaluator. Woo! Okay. Then we will go to best table topics. Drum roll, please. Bob.
Hey.
And of
Right.
course, we're thinking, now that he's engaged, that we have a future potential Toastmaster who will be joining us as a new person, because when you're married, that's what you got to do. You got to do stuff together, and then there it is. So, all right.
Oh, yeah, she'll be more than thrilled.
You might want to take it one step at a time,
Yeah.
you know, before you break it to her.
Okay.
Okay, very good. And finally, no surprise here, our best speaker is Art. Woo! Art. Okay. All right. And with that, I'll hand it back over to our president, but I just am going to say it was very, very great, wonderful. It was very rewarding to have our extra guests here tonight participating with us and sharing pieces of their lives and their observations. So back to Bob.
Great.
That's our president. That's our president. Yes.
Well, thank you, everyone. Again, thank you, Art, and for sharing this evening. It was a great speech. I thought everyone did great. Alex, wonderful evaluation. Sue, it was nice having you for the first time. Hopefully come back and join us again.
Mhm.
And of course, we thank you, Sean, too. And like you said, hope you come back again. That's great.
Mhm.
Sean or Sue, before we go, since you have anything that you'd like to add or share about the meeting that has some interest?
Yeah, no, I thought I really enjoyed the meeting format. I mean, it's just like the old days, except we're doing it virtual, so that's
Mhm.
great. And I'm not sure, Jean, how it works as far as the documentation that you need for me to become a new member.
Oh, great. Well, Alex is our vice president of membership. So Alex, just, if she got your email address, okay, at Gmail.
Got it.
Well, great. That's great.
Yeah, perfect.
So Sean,
Yeah.
I'll send you the information via email.
Okay, thank you.
So it's basically, it's a membership form, and Alex will give it all to you. But
Okay,
depending on timing and everything, we'll be here next week. So would you like, we might as well, we'll go ahead and put you in for the agenda, and, you know, just the communication that I sent you tonight. We'll do it next week too.
yeah, sounds
Okay.
good.
Oh, great. Good
Great.
to have you aboard. Good to have you aboard.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
I'm gonna say one more thing. So Sean, since you were a member there, Toastmasters went through a whole, you know, Toastmasters for the, what is it, 22nd century, which is, is that right? No, 21st century, which, anyway.
Whatever.
Yeah,
Anyway, yeah, for now, as opposed to back there in the day. And so if you go to toastmasters.org, you know, it's the international website, and look for pathways. Up at the top, it'll give you an overview of, it's still the same skill sets, it's still all that stuff, but instead of getting your source material and lessons and all from manuals, you're getting them from online resources. And there's
oh, sure.
so anyway, we won't take up all the time, but just take a look at that. That could be helpful for you, starting to get a little leg up on that. All right.
Yeah, excellent.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Sue, did you have anything before we part ways?
Yes, Bob. This is the first time I've been on your Zoom meetings, I think. Maybe sometimes I'm behind Art's shoulder,
Mhm.
Oh,
because I do enjoy your meetings and I enjoy the concept. And you know, I went up to Iowa City and cheered you and Art on.
Yes, it
And
was
that's
great.
what I'll continue to be as a cheerleader.
And a good one at that.
You'll see me from time to time.
Mhm.
We're glad to have you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, thank you everyone for a great meeting. I'm going to officially close this thing. 9:00, right on the dot.
All right.
As usual, we all sign off, but if you want to sit and chat with someone, you're welcome to. Otherwise, we will look forward to seeing you next Tuesday.